Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to another edition of Muslims Uncensored with me, Robert Carter, and the mighty Muslim, Roshan Saleh. Now, I feel, it's been a couple of weeks into the holy month of Ramadan. I hope and pray that you're having a beautiful and wonderful holy month. I'm starting to feel a little bit sluggish. I don't know about you, Roshan, but I will keep my energy levels up as best I can for this show, because there is a lot to get through. How's your Ramadan going?
Well, it is time, because actually Ramadan is the busiest period for us at Five Pillars, because not only are we trying to keep on things on top of the stories that we're doing, we're also fundraising quite intensively as well. And, we're also trying to focus on our personal ibadah, which isn't easy. And I think as Muslim activists and leaders in this field, it is incumbent on us to focus on ibadah, to be good Muslims the best we can. Of course, we're very imperfect individuals. Speaking for myself, not sure about you, Robert, but yeah, I just think I was just reflecting with you before the camera started rolling that I think, we need to be practicing Muslims, the people in this field. We need to be knowledgeable Muslims to the best of our ability. And obviously we're going to make plenty of mistakes on the way, but we have to do our best because we have a huge responsibility.
Yeah, in the last few nights that we've got, I can't remember how many days we've got left exactly, but with these days that we have remaining, we have to make the most of them, of course, because
last 10 days, coming
absolutely.
up.
Last 10 days coming up, so let's all, inshallah, make the most of them and continue to pray for us here at Five Pillars as well. We always appreciate it. I want to dive straight on into the first topic, because there's been a horrific terror attack in Moscow. Well over 100 people got killed, I believe. But although that story's been trending and has grabbed all the headlines, another sort of sub-story to this is also very important, which needs to be pushed, and it's not being pushed. And that is that a young 15-year-old Muslim boy, Islam Khalilov.
I think it's Khalilov. Because they put the "ov" at the end of Muslims' names in Russia.
So Islam Khalilov was a hero, absolute hero, saved well over 100 people, along with a couple of other young lads who basically managed to direct people to exits whilst the shooting was happening. I haven't really seen any headlines highlighting the fact that this was a Muslim kid. They've said that, a couple of teens helped save lives and whatnot, but nowhere has it said that this was a Muslim teen. And the reason that's so important is because when an attack like this takes place, if the ones doing the shooting can be linked to Islam somehow, they run with it. That's the headline: Islamist terror hits Moscow or whatever like that. But when a Muslim actually does something in reverse, actually saves lives, does something positive, helps to fight against terrorism, it's not even in the headline. They put it somewhere. The fact that the guy's name is Islam actually helped to highlight the fact that he is actually a Muslim.
Yeah, I mean, Russia has a huge Muslim minority, doesn't it? Across the different countries that made up the ex-Soviet Union. He is. I think what happened, he was working as a cloak attendant at the City Hall Arena, the Crocus City Hall Arena. So he knew where all the exits were. So he literally, when he heard the gunfire, he directed about 100 people towards an exit away from where the gunfire was.
Yes.
So alhamdulillah, may Allah reward him. I think the Russian authorities have rewarded him. I think this Friday, the Grand Imam of Russia is going to give him a medal at Friday prayers or whatever. Yeah, so it needs to be highlighted.
Absolutely. He's being recognised in Russia, it looks like. But I read a BBC article and they basically said, well, we can't even corroborate if this is true because it's from Russian media. And it's like, okay, well, thanks
several
for that.
times.
Exactly. He's spoken publicly about it. And his name is Islam, So they'll focus on Islam when they want. But let's talk about that terror group, Daesh, as well, because to be honest with you, there's something weird going on. There's sort of a fishy smell related to this and this group now, which has been picked up for a number of years. Coincidentally, Daesh always targets the countries which are at political odds with the West. Iran, Iraq, Russia now, the latest example. I don't remember them ever targeting Israel, for example, and there's a lot of other Muslims who
they have attacked. I'm not trying to defend ISIS now, but they did attack the UK a few times, didn't they? And
lone wolf terror attacks.
Yeah, or inspired by ISIS.
What's happening, however, there's a conspiracy theory which is very popular now online and in the Middle East, that basically Daesh was created by the West. It's a Western creation to undermine and further their geopolitical interests, undermine their enemies, further their geopolitical interests in the Middle East, and attack countries they don't like Russia, to the point where even Putin now has basically said as such that he believes that the West was involved in this attack, which was carried out by Daesh. So what do you make of that?
So Putin is trying to say that the West wants plausible deniability. So they've used Daesh to attack Moscow and Russia. I don't know what proof there is for that, but all I can say is that this is an extremely fishy group. I'll get onto the actual group. It's ISIS-K, which is the ISIS Khorasan, the Afghan version of ISIS. But ISIS, I mean, Baghdadi, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS, I mean, he was in Camp Booker, an American camp. Several ISIS leaders were. So the theory is that they were in American custody for a while, then they suddenly escaped, and then they form ISIS, which undermines, Iraq, then different countries like that, and Syria, etc. So it's a useful tool for the West, because they can blame all this madness that's going on in these countries on Islamist extremism, which plays into their narrative in the West as well. So I don't know. All I know is that ISIS-K, because obviously when I was in Afghanistan a few times about a year and a half, 2 years ago, there was lots of talk about ISIS-K, and they were launching attacks against the Taliban, against the Islamic Emirate. And people were saying, like, who is this group? Where have they sprung from? They sprung from nowhere. Who's funding them? To launch these attacks, you need funding. So people were saying either it's the West that's doing it. It must be America that's funding them, because America have just been kicked out, or it's India, because India have lost this geostrategic war in Afghanistan now. So the two main culprits were, they fingered, like, America or India. So I think this group is infiltrated. Obviously they're extreme Khawarij. Their interpretation of Islam is absolutely crazy, beyond all bounds, completely haram, killing innocent civilians, targeting innocent civilians. I mean, these people at the cinema hall. I mean, this is something that our religion teaches us. We can't kill innocent civilians, simple as that. Other religions might say something different, but our religion is completely kind of, why are you smiling? Our religion, what religion are you thinking of here? Our religion is completely clear cut on this point. We cannot target innocent civilians, and people that are not engaged against war and others. These people are concert goers. So this attack has nothing to do with Islam whatsoever. And this group, ISIS, has nothing to do with Islam whatsoever. And, I'm very suspicious. We did a poll on 5 pillars. Yesterday, I just asked, what do you think? And all our readers and viewers, basically, the vast majority were saying, yep, the West's got its hands in it, or Israel's got its hands in it, or Ukraine's got its hands in it. Yeah. Obviously, we can't prove any of this, but the very fact that everyone believes it straight away proves there's maybe no smoke without fire.
I would argue that the majority of the Muslim world across the globe, like most Muslims everywhere, believe that ISIS is the creation of the West. It has like the CIA behind it or something like that. That's literally what most Muslims believe, I think. And to be honest with you, I haven't seen the West do a very good job in, convincing Muslims that that's not the case. I mean, they always claim things like, we defeated ISIS, we're the biggest victims of ISIS. And then what they do is they conflate ISIS with Islam, and they say that this is Islamism and Islamic extremism and so on and so forth. And then they start to discriminate against Muslims in the West, treating us like potential terrorists and second-class citizens. But I remember Muslims were warning the West, if you go into Iraq, if you go in and push regime change in other countries like Syria, Libya, what you're doing in Afghanistan is creating a breeding ground for terrorism, and a bunch of radicalised lunatics are going to start hitting back. And unfortunately, that's what's happened. So Muslims literally get blamed for everything, even though it's the West that's ultimately responsible for destabilising the region, which has led to the rise of these groups. I
mean, I think the entities with the most motive to attack Russia are the West and Ukraine, because Putin has effectively defeated them in Ukraine. I think even most Western analysts now agree that NATO's war on Russia has been a failure, militarily and economically, and Russia will at some point end up victorious. I think there's a general consensus about that now, emerging even amongst Western circles and politicians and analysts, and they're preparing Western public opinion for that eventual Russian victory. So yeah, the suspicion is that they're using these terrorist groups to lash out at their main enemy.
Yes, well, let's see how that story develops, and if we'll get to the bottom of the who created ISIS conspiracy. Well, let's move on to another story. It brings us back to the UK. Now, headlines are focusing on this. 2 Israeli citizens who were they were at one of the music festivals that was involved on October the 7th. They attempted to enter the UK recently. They were stopped and questioned for about 2 hours, and some footage of border security speaking to them went viral. and they're now alleging that they were discriminated against, that there was some potential anti-Semitism at play here, and that they were basically treated really badly by UK border security, and it's now blown up into this huge story. I'll just play out a clip now of the incident
Sure.
involving these security officers speaking to these Israeli citizens.
The checks we need to conduct, okay? Nobody's saying that. Nobody has said that once. So knock the attitude off. We've made the decision and you're coming in. So just let us do the checks we need to do and keep quiet. Look at me. Okay, you clear with that? Good. We're the bosses, not you. All right? The checks we need to conduct.
So that's basically the clip that's gone viral. Other things were alleged, but obviously we haven't seen any evidence of that. But basically they're saying that this was an anti-Semitic incident and that these two individuals were discriminated against. What they haven't mentioned is that they're members of the IDF, or they have been at least, and that they were invited here to talk about it. But this is at a time when Israel is engaging in a genocide in Gaza.
So they were here to talk about their time in the IDF? Is
Yes.
that true? All right, okay.
They were here to talk about what happened on October the 7th and
right.
their experiences. So just make that clear. But this is at a time when Muslims in this country feel at threat. There's a spike in Islamophobia. We have incidents happening outside of mosques, which we'll discuss in this show, very concerning, disturbing incidents. And Muslims in this country feel unsafe. It makes sense to me that border security should question people coming from that region right now. But what's happened now is that anti-Semitism the accusation of anti-Semitism is thrown around so much, and so much of this is alleged. It just seems like maybe there should be a proper investigation here before we start drawing and quartering anyone. And I'm no fan of border security at the end of the day, because Muslims have been treated really far worse for a very, very long time. Roshan, what do you think of this story? What do you make of it?
Those Israelis, I mean, welcome to our world. I mean, Muslims are Schedule 7'd all the time going through British airports, and for no reason, just because we're Muslims, because we might be wearing thobes or shawar kameez, have big beards, for far less reason than that. I mean, obviously the border security guy was quite robust in his language there, but we don't see the whole clip. We don't see what the Israelis might have said to him beforehand. But they're coming from a war zone, and they're literally coming from a war zone. And the fact is there are IDF soldiers coming into the UK that have fought in Gaza. So I think border security need to find out if an Israeli national comes through, British border gates. They need to question them very thoroughly. Where have you been? What have you done? Et cetera, et cetera. So every Israeli should expect that treatment it's completely right and proper that they should expect that treatment. The final thing I want to say, Robert, before you come in, is that, Muslims, when we try and visit Al-Aqsa, for example, unfortunately, a lot of Muslims, they have to go through Ben Gurion Airport, and, it's no questions asked. They're put in detention, straight away and sent back home. A lot of them. So, quite frankly, those Israelis were treated with kid gloves, but it gets national media attention, doesn't it? It was all over the news yesterday. I think it was ITV that interviewed these guys like they were victims. Where is ITV? Where is the news media when we have to go through airports? Yeah. We get detained for 3 hours, questioned by, stupid questions by idiot police officers, okay? And we have to miss our flight and cancel our holidays, cancel our foreign. Where's ITV then?
Absolutely. I mean, you hear about things like you've mentioned about ordinary Muslims, British citizens as well, being treated this way in airports all around the world, including the UK. But then these two guys who served in the IDF and in another army it's not the UK army, this is a foreign fighting force which is being accused of war crimes.
That is currently committing genocide.
Currently committing genocide. And what, we're supposed to just give them the red carpet if they decide to show up whilst the genocide is going on. I just can't understand why the double standard's been allowed so blatantly in our own media. I mean, does this country have no self-respect? Is it just like bend the knee whenever someone in Israel gets upset or offended by something?
It just plays into this whole narrative of Israelis being treated by the British media especially as victims. Israelis are not the victims at the moment, there's a genocide going on in Gaza, and they should expect rigorous questioning when coming into the UK.
I've already alluded to this story, so I'll introduce it now, because again, this sort of atmosphere of fear that the Muslims have in this country, it's only escalating. There was a few incidents, not one, but a couple, of what appears to be intimidation tactics by young Jewish youth in this country outside of mosques in this country. One prime example, which I'll showcase now, was like a party. It was like a little rave going on outside of a mosque, which a bunch of kids wearing orange jumpsuits, allegedly carrying toy guns as well.
At least one of them was
carrying a toy gun, hanging outside a mosque during prayers, and blasting this music out and basically just acting in a really intimidating fashion. I'll play a clip out now just so you guys know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, taking up the whole road.
So that's the clip. Roshan, I think you might have looked into this a little bit. Just tell me what do we know?
It's not completely clear what's gone on, but I think from multiple sources on the ground locally, and this version has not been denied by anybody as yet, is that basically this was the festival of Purim, Jewish festival of Purim, which basically celebrates a Jewish military victory told in the Bible against the enemies of the Jews. And on this day, Jews are, they're expected to celebrate publicly, and they often dress up in costumes, play loud music, drink alcohol. All this kind of thing is encouraged. It's a public celebration of that victory, that military victory. So it appears that these Jewish youth have decided to camp outside of a mosque during Tarawih prayers, play their loud music, their rave music, dress up in their costumes, some with toy guns, fake guns, and effectively intimidating passers-by and Muslim passers-by. And no violence occurred, but it's still, I think it happened on more than one night, as far as I know. And it's intimidatory behavior. Just imagine if we, we don't have such a festival, but imagine if there was a Muslim festival celebrating a victory against the enemies of Islam, and we decided to go outside a synagogue and celebrate. What would happen? It would be national news headlines. It would be Muslims intimidating the Jews, anti-Semitic Muslims, etc., etc.
Yeah,
so this is a case of these Jewish youth doing that. It needs to be nipped in the bud. The police need to take action. I'm not saying they should arrest it looks like they're children to me, but I'm saying this needs to be nipped in the bud, because we cannot have people intimidating Muslims outside mosques. Just like Jews have the right to, worship inside their synagogues, and Hindus in their temples, in peace and security in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I must admit, it's not the only incident that went viral recently on this day, Purim. There was actually another image of a child outside another mosque, allegedly, dressed in a military uniform with a toy gun as well, a toy semi-automatic
and the Israeli flag on
and the Israeli flag on his shoulder, and allegedly he was seen marching around outside of a mosque as well.
I am, you know what, Robert, I'm slightly worried about Jewish people in this country being radicalized. Like the Hindu people are being radicalized by the Hindutva, because obviously we now know that Israel is a genocidal, radicalized society, that many people in Israel believe in the annihilation of Palestinian civilians, even and Muslims. So it's a radicalized, extremist, genocidal society. What effect is that society having on Jewish people in the UK? It's something that I think, I'm not a fan of Prevent, but if they want to look into something, maybe they should look into that.
I think so. I mean, the Israeli propaganda is notorious. It's over the top. They lie about a lot of things. And there are movements inside Israel as well, like these crazy movements. They want to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and they advocate for stuff like that. And obviously the genocide, as you say, and express blatantly anti-Arab racist views. So yeah, it's worrying. It's very, very worrying. There's no doubt about that. I think there is another story as well related to mosques. It's Brent Central Mosque. I'll let you introduce this story, because I think you've got a lot to say on it. So what's Brent Central Mosque been up to?
Breaking bread with Zionists. That's what it is. I mean, Philip Rosenberg is a deputy in the board of deputies of British Jews, which is a pro-Israel organization which has supported, given PR support for the Israeli genocide in Gaza. And he is running to be president of that organization. And the Central Mosque of Brent, which I think decided it's a great idea to invite him to iftar with Sadiq Khan. And he posted on his own Twitter that he'd been to there, and a video of him hugging Sadiq Khan, being invited to the mosque, a selfie with him and the chairman of the mosque, etc. Now, this is outrageous. Literally, our mosques should be no-go zones for Israeli genocide supporters. As simple as that. No-go zone for Zionists. You know, literally, there's a genocide happening. I mean, how tone deaf are the committee of the Central Mosque of Brent? Literally, these people are supporting the genocide of our people, you know, and they're being invited to iftar in our mosques. I mean, the congregation of the Central Mosque of Brent should be asking questions of the committee. Why did you allow this to happen? I feel that the committee members should resign. They should resign. They should no longer be in charge of that mosque. At the very least, the congregation must ask the committee they must demand answers. Why did this happen? This should not have been allowed to happen. Yeah. Zionists who support Israel should not be allowed in any Islamic institution in the UK.
It's a disgrace, total disgrace. I mean, they'll on another occasion talk up maybe some of the great Islamic heroes of past days gone, but I mean, you're not even following their legacy, are you? If you're just inviting in those who are defending regimes that are killing Muslims abroad, I mean, how dare you? Like, it's shame on you. And they see what's going on with the Labour Party and what Muslims in this country are trying to do, this desperate sense of we need to do something for Gaza, we can't help them, we can't stop this genocide, we have to go out, we have to protest, we have to boycott these parties, boycott, do the BDS, let's get out there, do anything we can. There's this desperate sense, help these people, help the Palestinians. And you got these guys just going, oh, it's all right, just bring whoever.
Completely inappropriate.
Yeah, it's so inappropriate and just so offensive to all the senses. I mean, are they that stupid?
Philip Rosenberg, I looked at his Twitter feed yesterday. I mean, in his rhetoric, he's not as he's not genocidal in his rhetoric. He's all about interfaith and this and that, but he's an Israel supporter. He completely supports Israel.
But that's the thing.
And he tweeted...
Oh, sorry, go on,
Yeah,
Roshan,
he tweeted a picture of himself, a selfie with Eylon Levy,
yes,
who's the spokesman for genocide. So, and he called him a dear friend. So we know where Philip Rosenberg's allegiances lie, and as far as I'm concerned, anyone that supports Israel as they're committing a genocide is guilty of something and shouldn't be allowed in a mosque. Do you want to talk about Eylon Levy?
I do, because obviously we've got some fantastic news worth celebrating regarding him. But just very briefly, interfaith, it's not what it seems. A lot of people assume, interfaith, we've got it's a force for good, and it has a place in the community. And yeah, we're not against interfaith, but there is a conscious effort by groups in this country that support Israel, support Zionism, support apartheid, that want to infiltrate the Muslim community, and they do it via interfaith. And what happens? Incidents like this, where you have Islamic institutions opening their doors to people like this. Now, very quickly, you mentioned already, Levy's been sacked.
Yeah.
Levy's been sacked. So after being suspended for a tweet he made against David Cameron, which sparked some complaints from the British authorities, he's been sacked. So the guy's finished. He's gone. He was talking about how Israel was going to defeat Gaza before.
He's been defeated by his own regime.
He's gone. You know what I mean? He's gone. Gaza's still going, alhamdulillah. But yeah, he's gone. What's your reaction, Roshan?
Obviously it's funny and we can laugh about it. This guy has literally been the spokesman for genocide, so it's quite funny that he's been sacked by his own regime. But the reason why, in a normal world, the reason why he should have been sacked is because of exactly that. He's a spokesman for genocide. But he was sacked because he basically tweeted Israeli policy which wasn't Israeli policy to David Cameron. So it's a pathetic reason, but we can at least laugh at what happened.
I know. Well, like so many colleagues of his, I guess, in Tel Aviv, they should really be on trial somewhere like The Hague, I dare say. But if they ever get penalised, it's for some
British citizen. This guy, Eylon Levy, British citizen, comes in and out of the country, no problem. I bet he doesn't get Schedule 7.
Well, there you go. Let's obviously, there is so much to discuss on these issues. We've had a whole bunch of topics which we couldn't include in the show because it would have been too much. But one thing which we should discuss is the Battle of Badr.
Yeah,
one
today,
of the greatest victory for Islam. It's the 17th of Ramadan today, which we mark the anniversary of this great victory. Roshan, we released an article on this, an opinion piece about what we should take, what lessons we can remember, and how we can use that for our benefit today. Perhaps you want to summarise that article and just go through some of the points.
One of our regular contributors, Maria Akbar, wrote an article today about the Battle of Badr, the lessons we can draw on. Obviously, we're watching the scenes unfolding in Gaza for nearly 6 months now with a sense of helplessness. And I think the Battle of Badr, the 17th of Ramadan, the greatest victory for the early Muslims. It's a source of hope, I think, for us. And I mean, there's so many lessons that we can take. I think one is that, which are enumerated in this article, brothers and sisters. I encourage you to read it on the Five Pillars website today and to share it amongst your friends and family. I think maybe there's 4 or 5 reasons that Maria kind of enumerated in that article. I'll try to remember a few of them. One is that numbers don't mean anything, So it was 313 versus about 1,200 on that day, yet the Muslims defeated the Quraysh. The help of Allah can come from unexpected places, Allah literally sent down angels on that day to assist the Muslims. He made the numbers of the Muslims seem greater to the Quraysh, and the numbers of the Quraysh seem less to the Muslims, to give them comfort and courage in their hearts on that day. What else? The power of dua. I think Maria enumerated that the Prophet literally spent the whole night in dua before the Battle of Badr, because seemingly the Muslims were facing insurmountable odds, and obviously Allah answers the dua of the caller. And I mean, I'm sure she mentioned more than this, but the only other thing that springs to mind now is that the power of unity. How the Ansar and the Muhajirun, the Ansar, they were new Muslims, and this was happening quite early after they'd become Muslims, yet they were willing to die for the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, despite the fact that they hadn't been Muslims for very long perhaps. So I think we can apply some of those lessons, if not all of those lessons today when it comes to Gaza. Obviously, we're seemingly fighting a bigger enemy, better equipped. We see the images of death and destruction. Sometimes we despair, but I think there's hope in the Battle of Badr and how the Muslims won that great victory despite insurmountable odds. And I think, inshallah, with sabr, with patience, with Allah's help, of course, the Israelis will be defeated one day.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously let's look to these occasions and remind ourselves, because I think, as we've mentioned on this show previously, sometimes Muslims, they get intimidated by, oppression from the state or how the media spins stories, and then it makes them think, well, I don't want to speak out, I don't want to make a big mountain out of a molehill because what it could mean for me. But, these are our heroes. These hard-won victories were not done by Muslims just sitting at home, and just keeping quiet and going, well, someone else will deal with it. This is the type of message which we have to use to take, because victories is given by Allah, but Muslims have to take action as well for the sake of Allah. In His, inshallah, in His will, He will give us the victory when it's ready. But we have to keep going, and we have to stand up for our brothers and sisters any way that we can. I want to give you a chance to talk about the rest of the holy month, because as you mentioned, we've got 10 days left.
Yes,
so there's going to be
days, yeah,
it's going to be a busy time for us here at Five Pillars.
Yeah.
Perhaps you just want to speak to the audience and tell us.
What
we're expecting.
So brothers and sisters, in the last 10 days, which are nearly upon us, Five Pillars, we're going to have several appeal nights, which will be directed by our colleague Dili Hussain, but Robert and I will both be there as well. And they're going to be the odd nights of the last 10 days of Ramadan, so the 21st, 23rd, 25th, 27th, 29th, inshallah. And they'll start this Sunday, I think at 10 p.m. We are going to advertise it widely across our social media in the coming days. So I would just invite you to join us for those fundraising appeals. We'll have many famous, well-known guests there, as well as Dili, myself, and Robert. So it'll be an entertaining couple of hours, but it'll also be a chance to make some money for Five Pillars so that we can continue this jihad in the media that we are pursuing over the next year, that we can put it to good use to expose the Zionists, expose the gender activists, the enemies of Islam, the Hindutva, the Islamophobes, the warmongers, etc., etc.
The Rainbow Mafia, some call them.
The what? Sorry,
the Rainbow Mafia. Some
yeah,
people call
yeah.
them.
So all these enemies of Islam that we must target and give it back to them. Fourfold. We need money to do that, because we need money to travel, to do the stories, to pay journalists, to pay freelancers, and we're going to be hopefully getting some of that money from you during the last 10 days of Ramadan. So please tune in, tell your families and friends. Share the link that we'll be putting on our social media, open your wallets, and inshallah you will be rewarded.
Yeah, I'm not shy to talk about this simply because we have to get into the mindset of investing in ourselves. I can't think of a better example of that than Five Pillars, simply because Five Pillars, we're not just working for ourselves. It's not just you and me talking on Muslims Uncensored and having a laugh every day. We actually go out and if we do have a laugh at Muslims Uncensored, but we actually go out into the community. We're reporting on stories. We're bringing stories which wouldn't be heard anywhere else to the public eye. And we're activists as well. We attend many Muslim events and platform them, give you guys a voice. So, I'm not shy to say it. Support us, and we're going to support you right back. We're in the business of supporting the Ummah in that humble way.
The proof is in the pudding. You can see what we're doing, brothers and sisters. I mean, you can see the stories that we're breaking every week and how hard we're working. I assure you, we're not living luxury lifestyles and stuff like that. We're just ordinary Muslims living in ordinary communities. We're part of the community. We're part of the grassroots. You'll see us in mosques up and down the country, not just doing stories, but worshipping, and so we're just ordinary guys, and we do have a laugh, we do enjoy our jobs, and there's nothing wrong with that. We enjoy what we do, and we do have a laugh and a banter, but I think that keeps us going as well.
Absolutely.
So please join us for those appeals, inshallah. Starting Sunday night.
Yeah, keep us in these seats. I'm very comfortable where I am, so please support us in any way you can, and we'll keep doing what you appreciate us doing the most, which is making an impact for you, and inshallah defending the Muslim community in our own humble way whenever we can. So thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to add, Roshan? I think we've had a good show today.
Yeah, no, just a bit. Yeah, I think I hope we're having to strive a little bit during these shows to keep our energy up, because obviously fasting, fundraising, doing stories, we're really tired, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm sort of slivering down the
chair. Yeah, we're really tired.
So
we're trying to hide our lack of energy as much as possible. I hope our sluggishness isn't coming across.
I just struggle to concentrate at this stage.
I just get bored when you talk. I was like, I want to yawn.
I have this thing. I don't know what it is. I think I might have a caffeine addiction.
Yeah,
because I've noticed because during Ramadan I basically cut caffeine out, because even in the evening I don't drink it, because I'll stay awake all night and I need to catch a few hours rest in between prayers and whatnot. So I cut it out completely, and I think it takes a whole month to get caffeine out of my system. And then by the time the holy month ends and we have Eid, then all of a sudden coffee comes back on the diet. And
I love my coffee ante actually in equal measure, and I probably have about 5 or 6 cups a day, to be honest, which is way too much. But I try to cut down before Ramadan. And in Ramadan, I don't usually have coffee. I think I have tea a bit more. I think there's less caffeine in tea. I'm not sure. But I've been getting less headaches in Ramadan for that reason.
Do you know what I heard? I don't know why we're going off on this topic, but I think it's interesting. Mint tea has caffeine in it, but what's good about it is it drags the caffeine, I don't know what you call it, like the symptom or the after effect of caffeine, the awakening, the effects. It drags it on longer. So with coffee, you get like a mad hit,
instant hit,
a spike, like you're like an addict. You're just like clicking and jumping off the walls.
Yeah.
But with mint tea, it spreads out nicely. Right. So there you go, a bit of
So you're a nutritionist now, are you?
I am, yeah. When it comes to
expert nutrition from Robert Carter.
I'm too obsessed with coffee and I know too much about it. But it was invented in the Muslim world, wasn't it? So there you go.
Well, I've been to the place in Yemen where mocha was invented, or something. It's called mocha,
actually. It's called mocha, yeah, exactly. Basically, I think the Ottomans took coffee from Yemen, and then it spread across the Muslim world, and then from there it went to Europe and so on and so forth. But,
so another thing the West has nicked off us,
like
algebra, like intelligence, reading, writing.
They won't nick the things they should nick, like how to clean themselves after using the bathroom. They take
that is such a. You're just such a.
The show's getting good.
Is that anti-Semitic, or is that no? Is it anti-white? Is it anti?
Well, I can say it, can't I? Because I'm white. I could be anti-white. I don't know how.
So what you're saying, that white people don't wash their hands when they go to the toilet?
They don't clean themselves properly.
I've noticed that at motorway service stations, by the way. When you go to because obviously, when you have to go, you have to go, right? And unfortunately, all of us have to go sometimes at motorway service stations. And the amount of people that come out, do their business, they don't even wash their hands. It's shocking,
it's a disgrace.
Which makes me not want to shake hands with certain people, quite frankly. Do you
want to clarify who?
Yeah.
Do you want to sum them up into one demographic and tell us who?
I don't want to be accused of anti-Semitism or anti-whiteness or whatever, but it's not. It's generally English people. I think it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of race they are, because everything you're people that are kind of born and brought up here, they kind of assimilate, don't they? And they take on the habits. So it's every single race I've seen at a motorway service station. All of them are guilty of this, I think. Apart from Muslims, we wash ourselves well. 5
times a day minimum, do you know what I mean? If not more, but what can I say?
So we invented cleanliness as well,
Just look at Muslim Spain compared to the rest of Europe.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say on it. That's your homework for anyone watching.
I just say, English people, just please wash your hands after you go to the toilet. It's my only thing. I don't, if you have to, I mean, I think we've lost.
I don't think that anyone could actually say this, but the one good thing about COVID was it forced everyone to actually wash their hands.
It actually taught them how to wash their hands, yeah.
Totally.
For 20 seconds.
There's like nothing good about COVID except this one thing. I never thought I'd say that word.
Yeah.
COVID had some benefit.
Yeah.
There you go. Should we end the show on that?
Non-Muslims watching the show, wash your hands, please.
I feel like there's a lot we're going to trim out this episode. But let's bring it to an end before it goes off on another tangent. Thank you very much, everyone. We love you, we care for you, and we appreciate those comments. So like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel immensely. And until next time, it's Assalamu alaikum for now.